Welcome back to the Strong Opinion Hibs podcast. As always, I am Jack, and today I'm joined by Charlie. Still no Calvin, as it's still very busy with him with school and the like. So, how are you, Charlie?
Aye, not bad, mate. Aye. Yourself?
I'm not bad. So, we've got a special episode for you today because, as a lot of you might have seen, Hibs Women have been very, very busy in the transfer market recently. A good few players have been signed. And we thought we'd give you a special episode just running down those players, doing a little sort of introduction, who they are, some facts behind them, and discussing what we think of those players as well, and what we think of Hibs Women's transfer dealing so far. And of course, I've got one of our new signings in the background, Benedict to Hollande. So we'll just kick right off, and we'll start off with the first signing that was announced quite a little while ago, actually, and that was Lyanna Hines. So her nation is Trinidad and Tobago. She's a full-back. Her last club was IBV from Iceland. She's 27. So Lyanna has 36 Trinidad caps to her name, and she captained the national side to qualification in the CONCACAF Olympic qualifiers. So that was for Tokyo 2020. So she actually captained Trinidad and Tobago. Now, of course, Hibs have got a good history with Trinidad and Tobago players. If you remember, Russell Latipe was all right for us. So if Lyanna can partake in a 6-2 pumping of the Jambos, we'd be very, very glad for that. But Charlie, obviously Lyanna was the first one announced, and sort of came out the blue a bit. Weren't really expecting, obviously, before then the only really sort of foreign players we'd signed had been Americans. So what was your sort of reaction, first of all, to see a player from a country that wasn't America getting signed?
It's good to see us in that market. The North American sort of countries are relatively decent when it comes to women's football. Trinidad obviously not being as big as Canada, America, but I think fullback's probably a position we needed to strengthen in any way. I think obviously it's a solid position if you can get it right. And Lyanna obviously comes with a lot of experience. Obviously captain in our country, that's no small feat. So, like you say, mate, it was a wee while ago now. I forgot that she'd signed. But I think just because it was so long ago. But no, I think it's a good one. It was probably a marker of what to expect. I think having that international experience in the squad's no a bad thing at all. So I was happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. She's also had experience in other leagues in Europe as well. She's played in Sweden before. So it's good to have players that have experience in decent leagues. Sweden and Iceland are both sort of just above Scotland, I'd say, in terms of the standard of the league. So it's good to have a player experienced in the league. She can also play anywhere down the right, I think, as well, in midfield and up the wing as well, which is good because obviously that was sort of that position we had Rachel Boyle in. And obviously Rachel Boyle won't be available to us for quite a little while because of her child on the way. So it's good to have a player that can cover that position. And it makes that spot a bit more competitive because obviously you've got Amy Muir, Jenna Penman and Lyanna all fighting it out for that spot now, which is good. It's good to have competition. As you said, mate, it's a solid position if you get it right. So it's good to see us getting a bit of depth there, and Lyanna's an exciting player with plenty of good experience. And also, like you say, captain in your country is a huge thing to do. Trinidad maybe, they're not as good as their near neighbours Jamaica in terms of Caribbean football. I'd say Jamaica rule the roost in the Caribbean women's football, but they certainly are a decent enough country, Trinidad and Tobago, and they do well in sort of regional competitions and everything. So captain in Trinidad's no mean feat, and like I said, we've had good history with Trinidadian players as well. So it's good to see Lyanna come in, and I think, yeah, like you said, that set down a benchmark for what to expect in terms of the stature and the standard of signings we've got to bring in, because it's not the sort of level of player we've really brought in before, if you like. We've always sort of targeted Scottish players or Americans coming through the college system. So to see us bringing a player that's got experience in Europe, has got good national experience from a sort of decent country like Trinidad, it was really good to see. And I've watched a few of her highlights, reels and everything, and she looks like an insane player. So really good to have. And yeah, I think Amy will have her work cut out fighting it out for that spot in the team now, with Lyanna coming in. Let's now move on to Crystal Thomas. Of course, Crystal came not long after Lyanna. It was actually quite funny because the day Crystal was announced is the same day that Chris Mueller left. So it was one American in and one American out. So obviously, I don't need to say Crystal's nation now, but USA. She's a forward. Can sort of play across the front Last club was Orlando Pride, of course, in the UWSL, which is the women's equivalent to the MLS. And she's 20 years old. So Crystal has experience at international level with the USA's under-23s and under-20s. And she was in prolific form during her college career. So she scored 32 goals across 93 college appearances, which is not bad at all. I think that's in a very similar vein to how Alexa was for her college. And then her club form's also been decent as well. She's played sort of all over the world. She's played for... I think she's played for a Swedish side. She definitely played for an Icelandic side. She spent a loan spell at Perth Glory in Australia. So she has got that experience of playing abroad. She also played for Orlando Pride and Washington Spirit in the UWSL as well. Our sort of best club in terms of goal return was Valur in Iceland. She scored 5 goals in 18 appearances, which is not bad. I think that's a decent return. So I think Crystal... Charlie, we know that Alexa's probably not coming back. Do you view Crystal as a sort of replacement for Alexa, or do you think Crystal was brought in as a sort of other option to have and we didn't really plan around Alexa leaving? What is your sort of thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think she was probably brought in as another option up top. I think, obviously, when we delve deeper into the newer signings, we've obviously brought in another couple of forward players, and also your top goal scorer, Amy Gallagher, leaving. You've got to think forward with these kind of things. I know Crystal was brought in before all that kicked off, but no, I think it's a good signing, mate. I think bringing in another young American, it worked with Alexa, and I think that'll be, hopefully it's the same with Crystal coming in. But no, I'd like to see another American coming in. It's not a bad thing at all. I like that Hibs Women are doing sort of the opposite to what the men are doing. I think, looking abroad and bringing in players that are going to impact the team in a positive way. So I was happy when she was signed. Yeah,
100%. Also that experience. The UWSL is one of the best leagues in the world. You look at the sort of standards of player that go out there. American teams just signed the Germany keeper Almut Schultz. So it's a league where big players go to play. Amandine Henry, who's France's best player right now, she plays out there. You've got loads of good players. Jennifer Marijan, another Germany player. So you've got a lot of big international players in that league. And I think America, as we know, as we spoke about with Alexa and Gabby, it's a country that's good at developing women's footballers. They're the best country in the world for women's football. And I think Crystal, the fact that she's played at that youth level properly, it shows you that she's a good player. You've got to be good to get into these American youth teams. She's come up at the same time as a lot of top US internationals. She would have been playing alongside them. And Orlando Pride are one of the best clubs in the UWSL as well. So I think to have that level, I thought it was actually a bit of a coup when we got Crystal, to be honest. She could have easily have ended up in another European league, somewhere like Sweden and with the Danska League or Austria with the Frauen Bundesliga. She could have ended up in a country that was maybe slightly better than Scotland, but we managed to get in. And I think that's a testament to the vision that we've has a club for women's football, and the fact that we want to get back to where we were. And I think Crystal's just one of the signings that sums that up. And she's got a good stats as well. She's got good goal returns there. So I think for me, Crystal's going to be one of these key players, and she's sort of a marquee signing for me. She's not the standout signing for me. We'll go into that a bit later, but I definitely think Crystal's going to be very, very important for us next season. And to have that experience at the club is fantastic, especially her college goal return. It's actually slightly better than Alexa's, I think. So, look at how well Alexa did for us last season. Alexa was our second top goal scorer. What's Crystal going to do? So I definitely think that Crystal's going to be a key player for us. So we'll move on. And of course, we had a bombardment of signings recently over the last sort of week with Hibs Women, and they all started off, all got kicked off with goalkeeper Benedict Hollande. So she's from Norway. Our last club was Hellas Verona in the women's Serie A in Italy, and she's 24. So Benedict comes in with experience in England. She played with Bristol City. She then went to Hellas Verona, a sort of a decently well-established Serie A side. And again, I watched some of her reels that the club put up of her saves, and I'm glad they put the Haaland song to that as well. I've got to say, shout out to whoever made that decision. That's a big W there for the social media. She's no relation to the striker, by the way. Just I'd like to clear that up. No relation to Alfinga or Erling. So It's just a really common second name in Norway. But I think, Norway's obviously a market we're looking at across the club because of Runar Hauge and Alice Melkersen as well. But Benedicta comes in. She's been very good in Italy, and the women's Serie A is a top league. I think testament that's how well Juventus did in the Champions League this season. And Hellas Verona, like I said, very well established club in that league. So to nail down the starting goalkeeper spot there is, I think, really, really good. Didn't have figures on her clean sheets and everything, unfortunately, but she does seem to be a very good goalkeeper. What I like particularly was her kicking. She's got some hoof on her, which is good. Also, her distribution looks good as well from what I've seen. So obviously, she's been capped by Norway at youth level as well, under 23 and under 17, and she could be targeting a senior place. Realistically, with Norway sort of having a bit of a resurgence after a disappointing World Cup, they're obviously going to be in the Euros. She's not going to be in that Euro squad, but you never know. If she does well, she could be targeting a place in the senior Norway squad, and it's an exciting time for Norwegian women's football right now in the national team with that resurgence. So I definitely think that Benedicta, again, is going to be good. Of course, she's got to be viewed as Gabby's replacement. I think, obviously, we've got the unfortunate news that Gabby's decided to retire. And, of course, I definitely think Benedicta as Gabby's replacement. I see her being a starting goalkeeper. I feel slightly sorry for Emily, but I think Benedicta's going to be our number one next season. So, Charlie, when you seen we brought Benedicta in, was it another surprise? Obviously, Norwegian. This is the first time Hibs Women had brought in a European foreign player. Obviously, we'd never really brought in any European players before. If they were foreign players, they'd always been Americans. So what was it like for you to see that, and obviously fitting in within sort of Norwegian theme we've got going at Hibs right now?
It's positive, mate. To have your new starting keeper. At least we think she'll be starting keeper. Dean might not think that, but no, I think it's good. Good experience. Played in the continent already, so knows sort of the standard of football to expect. Obviously, coming from Norway, it's, as you said, mate, they're making a wee resurgence women's football wise. So yeah, it's positive, mate. I think be good to see her and see what she can do. Obviously, you can only base what you've seen her on YouTube clips, which don't really show the full picture, in my opinion. But I'm looking forward to seeing her. I think the League Cup group stage will be a big test for all these new signings, especially the new keeper, the new strikers, just to see what they can do. But I'm really excited, mate. I think it's good to have a good keeper on board.
Yeah, I definitely, and I think Benedicta is going to be amazing for us. I could see her being one of the best keepers in the league. Gabby was up there. I know, Gabby did have a mistake in her. From what I've seen, Benedicta doesn't tend to have those errors. And what I could see as maybe taking a very European approach to this is Emily could end up being a cup keeper, so Emily plays in cup games and we have Benedicta for the league. But I definitely agree with you. The League Cup group stage is a big sort of proving ground for Gabby, and I think it's going to be the same this time around with Benedicta. But I'm glad to see we had a swift replacement for Gabby, and it was interesting because a lot of names were being thrown about for who we're going to get as a keeper. I think, none of this can be confirmed. This is all hearsay, obviously, but Alicia Yates, the Spartans keeper, was mooted. Megan Cunningham, the backup Rangers keeper as well, were names that I've got told off the people. So it's good to see us go for a more exciting sign. We could have done the usual thing, which is just take a player from a direct rival like Rangers or Spartans and go, there we go. But we went for a more sort of exciting, and I'm not complaining, because if Alicia had the same impact that Mickey did taking her from Spartans, that would have been great. But I think to go and look at that market and go, right, Benedict has done well in a very good league. The Serie A is, I think, a very, very exciting league, the women's Serie A. To take a player from that league and go, right, here we go, that's our goalkeeper. It shows amazing ambition from us as a club. And I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, it's just an excuse for me to sing that Hollande song. Of course, if we win the derby, I'm expecting that I feel very good quote to come out. I'm expecting it. I'm expecting that. But I think Benedict is going to be amazing for us. I mean, she does look like a very good young goalkeeper. And like I said, if she does well, she could be targeting a place in that Norway squad. It's as simple as that. They will be looking at her. Norway coaches will be looking at her. So I hope she does get that place. And yeah, a really exciting signing. Although I think I've gone deaf when I went to a game. I don't hear Gabby shouting. That's one thing I think we're going to miss about Gabby. But Benedict is going to be fantastic for us. And another really exciting signing. And of course, she was joined not long after by another Scandinavian signing, Noor Mustafa. So she is Swedish, but is of Kurdish descent. She's a forward as well. Our last club was Le Havre in France. Now, of course, a certain Mr. Bouzelin came from Le Havre as well, as Charlie pointed out when we got the news that Nor had signed. I think, Nor's 20. She's a young player, a lot of potential. Dean said that when he was asked about, obviously, he gave his statement when we signed the player. And he says she's an exciting young player with a lot of potential. Obviously, she's going to have to be developed. She's only had one career goal, and that was in a cup game when she was playing in Sweden for extra. I can't be bothered trying to pronounce that. United. She has experience at a good level. So it's that goal came in a cup game. So she's got one goal, but she's not actually played that many games in her career so far at a senior level. So she's also got experience at a good level with West Ham. Of course, West Ham, big side in the WSL. And she made 9 appearances for them last season, then sort of went on to Le Havre, and we've sort of taken her from there. She mostly played in FA Cup games for West Ham. But again, and it's an exciting young players. What we've got that experience. So we've got Hollande, who's experienced at that sort of top level in Europe, and is a good goalkeeper. We've then got Lyanna and Crystal, who are experienced in North America and who also have a little bit of international experience. But then we've went down this sort of what we've always done as a club, which is give youth a chance. And I think Norman Mustafa's a very, very exciting young player, and you've got raw potential there. I mean, 9 appearances for West Ham when she was 19 is not bad at all. If you think about it, West Ham are a top club in England, and I'm not just talking about in terms of on the pitch. You think about the stature of West Ham as a club as well. They're one of England's biggest. So be a part of that. And I don't know much about the Danska League in Sweden, but I think that team she played for was a decent sort of team. And then Le Havre play at a decent level in France, and are another name in France, a big traditional club in France. So Charlie, how good is it for us to be signing these sort of young players with that potential as well? And she's also been capped for various Swedish youth levels as well.
Yeah, it's good, mate. Obviously, we've got Ailey at sort of similar age up front, so 2 younger ones up top is good. But she's obviously here for a reason. She's a good player. Obviously not scored many goals, which hopefully we see that rectified when she's at Hibs. But no, I think it's positive, mate. You always want depth up top. I think that's the key, especially with probably the standard that we're expecting going forward now. I think with these type of players, I think having more options up front. There was times last season where the bench was very, very slim, and we had never really had many attacking options up top on the bench. So, I think to have that almost in abundance now is a good thing. And I was really happy when we signed her. Signing players that have played in England, at any level is good. So I think Nora will come in and will add something different to the team. Obviously, Scandinavian football, she'll, like Haaland, she'll be, bring a different sort of style of play that she might want to implement in the team. So, I'm excited by it.
Definitely, 100%. Sweden, if you look at what Sweden are doing, Sweden are the second best country in the world. And I think, they're heavily tipped to win the upcoming Euros as well. And I think, having a player that's come from that country, that football and culture, like you said, they'll bring something different to the team. And yeah, I think that definitely is good to have that depth of goals. I think when we lost Ailey to injury, we were toiling for goals a bit. So at least we have another exciting young player that if Ailey gets injured, Nor can come in, and Nor and Ailey will probably be battling it out as well, which will be good to see. It's good to have that healthy competition in our squad, and it gives us options on the bench, because I think there was loads of times last season where we maybe only had about 3 or 4 on the bench, and there wasn't anybody you could look at on the bench and go, if we're struggling for a game, struggling in a game, are they going to come on and win it for us? So I think having that sort of experience, and she's young, she's had experience at a decent club in the terms of West Ham, so I definitely think she is going to provide something a bit different for us and another exciting option. So we'll now move on to what, in my opinion, has been the best signing. And this is the signing I'm most excited to see, and that is Christina Freda. So, of course, she chose to represent Cyprus, but she was born in America. I'm going to be very interested to know, because the inner football nerd in me wants to really know how she ended up playing for Cyprus when she was born in America. It's one of those funny ones. But yeah, so she is Cypriot. She's a forward. Her last club was Apollon Limassol, who are sort of the top club in Cyprus for women's football, and also a big name in Cypriot football. Anyway, she is 28, so Freda has a wealth of experience in the Champions League and at various clubs. She's played in America, she's played for 2 clubs in Cyprus, so yeah, she's got a lot of experience. So, and here's the stats for you. Across her 101 career games, she has scored a staggering 249 goals. That's not bad. That's not bad. At Apollon last season, she made, across the few seasons she played for them, she made 59. She made 23 appearances and scored 59 goals. That's not bad. That's not bad. And a previous club she played for in Cyprus was Barcelona FA, which I can promise you is no connection to the Barcelona. It's just one of those ones. At Barcelona FA, another sort of decent side within Cypriot women's football, she scored 138 goals in 46 appearances, which I think was a stat a lot of people were looking at when they started looking her up. I think that was one of the first stats I looked up when I was like, well, who's this? She also has 3 Cyprus caps. I think that'll probably become more when she's playing for us. And she's also got a bit of unfinished business in Scotland. She had a less than successful loan spell with Glasgow City. I don't think that really came off for her, but it was in the middle of COVID. And of course, Glasgow City have a quality squad, and it's one that's sort of tough to break into, especially when you're battling out with Princia Chinchilla for your position. So I definitely think Christina is the most exciting out of those signings, because look at her goal scoring. If she can replicate that, if she can get anywhere near that with us, we're on to a winner. I think she's a very hungry player. She's got that goal scoring ability. She's got experience. She's played Champions League football with 3 separate clubs. I think she played Champions League with Barcelona FA. She played Champions League with Apollon Limassol. And the very rare appearances she made with Glasgow City, I think most of them are in the Champions League. So I think you look at that, she's got very good Champions League. Now, considering one of the key aims is for us to be chasing Champions League football for next season, I think that's good to have in the squad. It's the goals for me. I mean, I'm sort of speechless at those stats, and obviously I don't think they're numbers. You don't want to get too carried away. But I think you look at that, and I do think at times last season, and Dean did say this, we were struggling with putting games to bed and taking our chances. There was a few, I think, I said at the game at Parkhead, if we'd taken some of the chances we had, I think that wouldn't have been the mothering that we'd been on the end of in that game. And there was other games against Old Firm that if we'd taken our chances, we would have won. So I think if you look at that, she's a player that's got an eye for goal, and I think that's something we have needed. It'll be interesting, I think. What I'd do is Christina, Ailey and Crystal's my front 3 next season. Simple as that. That's my front 3. But she is just a very impressive player, wealth of experience, and I definitely think she's going to come good for us, and I definitely think she's going to be our key player next season. I think she could be in there for like the Golden Boot, to be honest. If she can hit the sort of form she was hitting in Cyprus, I know it's a completely different kettle of fish. Cyprus is obviously quite low down the pecking order at all levels of football. It's not the biggest country. We know that. I think the UEFA rankings somewhere near the bottom of women's football. So I think, it is a league where maybe if you are a good player, it would be easier to score in. But if she can hit that sort of form, like I was saying, she's going to be our best player. She could be in there for the Golden Boot in the SWPL1. So Charlie, looking at her stats, what were your thoughts?
Decent goal return, eh? I think if she can hit that early in the season, I think be quality. Like, I'm not expecting her to score 30, 40 goals this season, but if she can pitch in with 10, 15, as your striker, that's good. I think the goals will flow next season all over the pitch. But I think if you have that main striker and Christina that has been proven as a goal scorer in previous clubs, I think she's going to be the main forward next season with whoever behind her and beside her. So I think I was really excited when we signed her, and I think obviously seeing the way she's interacted with fans on Twitter and Instagram, when she joined, she's very appreciative for the warm welcome. So yeah, no, really excited by her, mate, and I think that's probably the one that sort of intrigues me most because, you know, good goal return, and I'm very hopeful that she can do it while she's at Hibs.
Yeah, 100%. And also, Charlie, just another thing that I wanted to touch on is, do you think that having that unfinished business in Scotland is going to motivate her to succeed more here this time round?
She'll want to prove herself. She'll want to, you know, make amends for potentially not playing as much in Glasgow City's team as she would have liked. So I think she will use that as motivation for, you know, who knows? She might be here for a season and Glasgow City come back in for her. You know, it's one of those ones that if she does prove good, then they might come back in. But no, listen, mate. I think it's a key one for us. I think to have a striker that is prolific coming into the club, it's only a good thing.
Yeah, I think a player like her's sort of what's been the missing piece of the puzzle, if you like. I think if we'd had a player like Christina this season, we could have potentially been in about third or second. And like I said, it's something that I think Dean would have admitted to himself, and he did say it in various interviews that he was frustrated when we don't put games to bed. And having a player like her, like I said, that's the sort of player that puts games to bed. You know, she can pop up with that crucial goal. And I think for me, she might be like a sort of Demi Mitchell figure, you know, where obviously Dimitri Mitchell was something for Hearts, and then he comes up and wants to prove himself again. Obviously, he didn't get that chance to do that. But I think she's going to be, you know, brilliant for us. And I think she's got extra motivation there. And like you said, I think her interactions with the fans, you know, I think it's been amazing. She was replying to all the messages she got. She was, you know, reposting stuff that fans had put on. So I think she sort of gets the club already, if you like, which is good. I think as Hibs fans, we want a player that sort of falls in love with the club, if you like. And I think, you know, we've had so many foreign players in the past that have come to Hibs and fell in love with us, you know, like Gunnarsson, Sauzet, you know, players like that, you know, even going like further back than that, like Big Jimmy Boko and everything, you know, the player from Benin that we had. So I think, you know, she's getting it, I think, and that's what we need. You want a player that has that relationship with the fans as well. And I definitely think we're onto one here, and I definitely think she's going to be our sort of marquee, key, big signing alongside Haaland. So now move on to Iva Cookin, who obviously is from England. She is a midfielder. Our last club was Bristol City, and she, a bit like Nor Mustafa, is a young player, 20 years old. And I think, again, like Nor, player with ability, one that we can mould, one that we can sort of build up. She has experienced at a decent level for such a young age. She's played for both Arsenal and Bristol City. She's made 29 appearances sort of across those two clubs. Bristol City, obviously, a decent, well-established side in England. Used to be a WSL side, obviously now in the Championship. Arsenal, one of the biggest clubs in women's football in England and in England in general. And she's also been capped by England at under 17 and under 19 level. I think she'll be maybe targeting a little under 21 cap as well. I've got to say there wasn't too much about Ava out there, but I do think she looks like a decent player. You know, at midfield's a position that we sort of need a strengthening in. You know, Shannon McGregor and Mickey are only sort of proper out and out midfielders, so I think bringing a midfielder in is good. So, Charlie, just quick, what was your sort of reaction to the signing of Ava?
Yeah, sort of came out of nowhere as well. Like, you know, we announced a fair few that day.
I know, we were going a bit crazy, weren't we?
I know she was sort of the last thing at night announcement, like we'll be announcing her tomorrow. But no, when I seen her, you know, I think signing somebody that's played at Bristol City, you know, they're not a small team in English football, women's football anyway. I think she comes with rave reviews for what I've seen. You know, there was a lot of Bristol City fans that were wishing her all the best. So, no, it's a good thing, mate. I think signing an English player as well, you know, it's good. Knows the UK. So, excited by it.
I think what I'm hoping the sort of impact she has is sort of like Claire Bartle at Celtic. You know, obviously she's English, and she came up from, I can't remember what club, I think it might have been Charlton Bartle came up from to Celtic, and obviously she's been one of Celtic's best players ever since, and she's one of the best players in the SWPL. So I do hope that it comes off for her. Obviously, the Bristol City fans coming in and they've been very complimentary. But then again, you could be getting a Nathan Wood with that because Middlesbrough fans came in and were very. She's also been capped by the under-19s like Nathan Wood as well. So nah, I'm kidding. She's not going to be a Nathan Wood. That's a shame to say that about the poor girl. But I do think that she's going to be good for us. I think maybe she's going to be an option on the bench. I can't see her starting ahead like Shannon McGregor or Mickey, to be honest. Then again, I think I've seen a few people playing. She sort of plays in the defensive midfield, which bear in mind we've not had a player sort of out and out in that position. It's been Leah or Ellis that's been sort of shunted into there. So I think having a sort of out and out defensive midfielder would be good if that's the position she plays in. I might be mistaken with that. But I definitely think it's another option to have, and it's good to have an English player. Like I said, I'm really hoping she can be like Claire Bartle, where she comes up and sort of becomes one of our best players. And last but by no means least, we'll move on to the signing that was just announced today. If you're watching later on, it was announced on Monday afternoon, and that is Eleni Ginu. I apologise for that. I'm not good with Cypriot names, apart from Alexandros Gogic. Who I hope both of our Cypriot players have a more successful time at Hibs than he did. But let's hope we're not boosting any of them out on loan to St Mirren, mainly because St Mirren women play in the third division. But I think Eleni, she's also Cypriot, as mentioned, she's an attacking midfielder. Her last club was also Apollon Limassol, so she's actually a teammate of Christina's. And Christina's Instagram story seems to be very happy that her teammates joined her. And she is 28. So Eleni has had experience at a high level in both her homeland Cyprus. She's played for a few sort of big Cypriot clubs, and of course, as I mentioned, we're talking about Christina, Apollon Limassol are the sort of top club in Cypriot women's football. And she's got experience in Greece. She played with PAOK Salonika, as we know. They are a huge Greek club. They're a big force to be reckoned with in Greek football at all levels. Who she also played Champions League. Actually played Champions League at both clubs. She spent a loan spell there. She has received 10 Cyprus caps to date. And I think I'd like to throw this in here. She's also no stranger to Easter Road. She played at Easter Road against Scotland. I think it was an 8-0 loss for Cyprus against Scotland at Easter Road in the 2019 World Cup qualifier that we played there. So she's played at Easter Road before. She's come back. She loved it that much. She loved the Leeds San Siro that much. She decided to come to Hibs. But I think, another player that's impressive, I think she might be a starting midfield option. Who that's losing the place to? I don't think it'd be Mickey. Maybe you could see Shannon getting dropped in place for Eleni. But she looks to be a good player, admittedly not one I know much about. There wasn't much out there on the old interweb about her, apart from that she did well for PAOK. Like I said, they're a big club, so she must have been a good player to have done well in Greece and with them. But I think it's another exciting option, and of course, Cypriot midfielders and Hibs don't usually go well together. But I hope I'm proved wrong in this case. Well, actually, we'll say Gogic was Serbian because his dad is Serbian, so that doesn't count. But I think Eleni, she seems to be a good player. I think she's going to be another sort of key for us. So Charlie, obviously she just got announced today. What did you think? Another Cypriot through the door. Next to Norwegians, we're liking Cypriots at the moment at Hibs as well.
I mean, I don't know much about her, mate. It's the only signing that's come in that I have really struggled to find much about. But no, I think she's not a good option. Attacking mid, great option to have, and has played Easter Road before, so hopefully she gets to play Easter Road again this season.
Yep. And hopefully it's on the right end of the 8-0 scoreline as well.
I hope so.
Especially if we play the Jambos at Easter Road again. But yeah, I definitely think, like I said, we don't know much about Eleni because she's just been announced. And again, Cypriot football is not my forte. But I think the thing is she is a good player by the looks of it, and another really exciting option. So that sort of brings us to the end of going to the players. So Charlie, if you were to describe this window so far in one word, what would it be?
I'd say positive. I think we're getting the deals done early. I think obviously the women's transfer window is different to the men's, so you can sign players almost any time, really, can't you? So I think it's positive, mate. We've only lost 2 players that have been announced. Obviously we're waiting to hear back if any of the other girls are leaving or whatever. But I think Yeah, positive start. I think obviously losing the two we lost, they're pretty key players that we've lost, but I think we've replaced them with good players. Obviously time will tell on that, but no, I'm happy with it, mate. Very positive so far.
Yeah, I think if I was to use one word, it'd be exciting. We've signed some really exciting players. Look at we've got a load of international experience in there. At senior level specifically with Lyanna and the two separate players. We're signing players from good leagues, like Benedict has come from a top European league. So I think, yeah, exciting's the word, and that's the whole direction I think Hibs Women are moving in. We've got a very exciting squad. Look at the players I've tied down. We've got the core of what made us good this season there. Players like Leah, Ailey. So we've got them. We've got Mickey as well. And then you've got the new signings. So I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. If we get a few more players tied down, that's great. Obviously, there'll be more departures coming. I think that's inevitable. We know that. I think we've more than made up for the players we've lost, though. We've got a solid goalkeeper brought in to replace Gabby. And, of course, Amy's had a few replacements. But I definitely think, Christina, even looking at position, Elaine's certainly been Amy Gallagher's sort of replacement. For sure, and I think that's good to see that we were quick and we got players that we know are going to be a right fit and that are experienced at a high level. So I think, yeah, if I was to use one word, it would be exciting. So finally, Charlie, two questions for you. What signing is going to be our standout and what signing is going to be the dark horse?
I think the standout will be Christina up top. I think she'll score a barrel load, mate. I think she'll be top goal scorer next season. I think she'll get a few. I think dark horse, I think probably Iva Cookin. I think she's got the makings of a quality player. So yeah, I would say her.
Yeah, I'm going to say our best signing. I'm not actually going to say Christina, or I'm going to do a joint. Actually, I'm going to do a joint. Christina and Benedict. I think Benedict is going to save us a lot of points this season, definitely, and I think she's going to be one of the best keepers, if not the best keeper in the league. And I think obviously I've just got to echo everything you said about Christina. I think she's going to score a barrel load for us and she's going to be our key player. I think she will be top goal scorer as well. I think in terms of dark horse, I'm going for Norma Mustafa as my dark horse. I think she's come in with a lot of potential around her. She's obviously come from a big footballing country, Sweden. So you never know. We might have the next Fredalina Rolfo in our hands. We just do not know. So I think Norma Mustafa is going to be big for us. And I think if she can get time in the team and get a chance to prove herself, I think Norma Mustafa is going to have a good season. So that brings us to the end of our little women's transfer update, if you like. So you guys do get involved in the discussion. We'd like to hear from you. What do you think of the women's transfer window so far? And give us your thoughts on what players excite you and everything like that. And so we'll be back soonish with the men's rebuild. Obviously, Lee Johnson's new coaching staff have been announced. And we've got David Marshall and we've got Charlie. Remind me of the boy's name again. We signed from Leeds. I've had a aberration here.
Nohan Kenna,
that's it. So I have to apologise for that, folks. So Nohan Kenna, we've obviously got David Marshall, and we'll talk about what targets we maybe want to see and players we'd want to see as well. So do keep your eyes peeled for that. But until next time, folks, thank you for listening and glory to the Hibs.